So I'm about to show you what I would do if I were to set up on the ground late season near a bedding area. Morning everybody. So the late season is upon us now in Wisconsin. It's a really cold, frosty morning, and I've noticed something walking around my property and walking in public land elsewhere in this area of Wisconsin, that the deer just aren't moving like they used to. It's 100% post-rut. It's after the gun season. The deer get really shut down. I started to discover that during this time, the deer movement is really isolated, and they're really holding into these little bedding areas. They feed 5 times a day. And so when they get up to feed, especially during the day when they're bedded, they're going to feed within their bedding area, and then maybe that evening sit is a good time to try to pursue a deer. I found out the other day I still have another doe tag, and of course my buck tag too for bow hunting. So good news is I got my crossbow back. My compound bow I purchased still has some string twist issues, so I'm not going to worry about using that in 2020. I do have my compound bow that got fixed, and I didn't know that it was under warranty, and I didn't realize that I could get it fixed for so cheap. I thought I'd have to get a whole new one. As you remember from a couple months ago, back in September, my bow had a cracked limb right here. So for late season, what I've been doing is going to public areas. Yesterday I traveled by boat and looked at a public area for a place I'd never been to before that's really isolated, private land on one side, one person owns it, public land, and then a big chunk of body of water that you have to basically have a boat or canoe to get to. When I was looking around there, I didn't see a whole lot of sign, but right when I get into the bedding area, as usual, there's scat, occasional rubs, deer corridors everywhere in this bedding area, because this time of year they just don't travel as far to feed. They bed, they feed, they're kind of already in their winter pattern, which makes sense because it's pretty cold. So what I'm going to do today is show you my setup in an area where I know they travel, I know where they feed, and what they're going to be doing is bedding, walking maybe 100, 200 yards at the most, feeding a little bit, bedding, and then kind of repeat that pattern throughout the day 5 times. I'm going to be hunting from the ground late season most of the time. I found a nice little spot that I'm going to show you where I think I can remain hidden, and I think I've got a really good chance of getting a deer before the season ends, so we'll go with it. And the good news is I am a meat eater. I like shooting bucks, but I also like shooting does, and where I'm from there's tons of them, so it doesn't really hurt the population of the herd. Stay with me. We're going to check out some bedding, how I set up on the ground in a bedding area. It's not next to it, it's not off of it, how I set up in the ground so I can access the bedding area quietly, set up off to the side of it a little bit but still within it, have some good back cover, have a really good chance hopefully of shooting a deer. Stay tuned. So I'm about to show you what I would do if I were to set up on the ground late season near a bedding area. I love sitting on the ground in late season for a lot of reasons. One, I'm freezing by the time it's time to go. My hands are cold usually. And when I'm freezing, the last thing I want to do is have to take off my tether rope, put on my lineman's belt, undo my ring of steps, taking off one step at a time. So I really enjoy sitting on the ground. And there's something about hunting on the ground, especially with a bow, that's very satisfying. But in this bedding area, you're not going to be able to find a tree to get up into. And if you did, first of all, you'd make a lot of noise getting in there. And also, you don't have any shooting lanes. So when you sit on the ground, it's a lot easier to pick out shooting lanes. It might only be a foot wide. That's kind of what I'm going for here, and I think I found a really good spot that's going to work. I'm going to show you what it looks like from my perspective sitting on the chair or on the ground. Also, I'm going to put this camera where the deer I believe would most likely be and how likely they are to see me. So what do you look for when it comes to bedding areas? It's the thickest area in that property. If you can find the thickest spot and branch out from there, that's a good way to set up. So I'm just going to whisper because I'm in their bedding area and just to the edge where it kind of stops. So right here, naturally this tree has fallen many years ago here, and just to the left of it over here once you get tucked in there, that background is going to break up your outline quite a bit. Now this here is in front of you. At my height in the chair I'm sitting at, I'm going to be quite a ways above that, so I'm not relying on that to help me very much with movement. You've also got all the side cover, back cover, and I'm shooting out this way. So there's plenty of room to set up a chair in here. It's really nice. It's almost too big in a way. And from my perspective, I literally have a shooting lane. I'm expecting the deer to come through there because the best of the best thick bedding is back there. 10 or 15 acres of really thick tags and also like really small aspen trees. Probably been clear cut many years ago, with the exception of a few white pines and stuff, as you can see up there. And back to my left was a whole bunch of raspberry bushes, high stem count bushes, and plants back in there that they feed on. And you can see scat, you can see tons of runways in between where they go out and feed. So that's just over there. Their bedding primarily is back there. I'm sure they bed in this stuff too. I actually found a bed right behind me. I'm not sure how long ago that was used because the ground's frozen now. I just have that one shooting lane here, maybe over there, but there's a runway here. And what I'm finding is that there's some rubs and some scrapes around this area, which tells me I'm just on the very edge of the bedding area, because they set that up on the edge of bedding areas, mostly between bedding and food or right on the edge of bed. So it kind of tells you where the borders are. So if you see scrape here, scrape there, scrape there, couple of rubs around those, that's telling you that that's the core bedding area. And right now, I'm deer hunting. I'm not just buck hunting or doe hunting. Whatever comes there, as long as it's an adult, I'm shooting it. But I think this is a really solid setup. You gotta give what nature gives you. And right now, nature's given me deer that I can clearly see are using this corridor going that way. Thick bedding behind them. They feed on briars and shrubs and things like that. Off to the left, high stem count over there. And then I've got this little nest behind me. And I think it's a really good spot. The thing about bedding areas is deer can shotgun out of it. If they're bedding in the middle, they can go whichever way they want, depending on the wind, depending on what they want to feed on that day, depending on what they feel is pressuring them as far as predators. So if they hear we come in here, I'm not going to see a deer. I have to be super quiet that last 150 yards to get in here, which is difficult to do because I'm walking through really thick stuff, which is another reason why I'm not bringing a stand. I'm not bringing my sticks. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to sneak in with a little chair that goes on my back and my crossbow. I'm going to walk in, set it down, sit down, that's it. And hopefully that reduces a huge majority of noise. And I also have to hunt this with any type of wind other than west. Because that's east, where I'm sitting is west, and the deer would come from the east. So if my scent's going that way or blowing that way, I'm done for. But this is my setup. This is what I recommend. One thing I really like about this is I'm letting nature do it for me. I'm not forming anything. I'm not building a ground blind with branches that have fallen. I'm not setting anything up. This is just here. You can do this on almost any property. If you're hunting a property with thick bedding, like I just showed you, you're going to have some luck seeing deer, getting close to the action, and giving yourself an opportunity for late season. This should set up your success for the highest percentage of seeing a deer, also harvesting a deer. This is a prime time to shoot deer, and there's only a certain amount of ways that work that you can benefit from, and I think this is a really great way to get close to the action, protect yourself from being seen. You don't need a lot of gear, just a chair and your weapon, a bow, crossbow, whatever you're using, and just have fun and enjoy that late season. Bundle up, sit down for those evening food sources especially, and you can do this on many different properties. I could go to another property a mile away, 2 miles away, whatever, other public land areas. I could probably find something pretty similar. I could find high stem count, thick security cover that I could use to sit just on the edge or right in the middle of it, find some natural back cover to break up my outline a little bit, and you can do the same thing more than likely. I think it's a really great idea. I think it's a really nice way to cap off the season if you haven't gotten a deer or you've got another tag and you'd like to harvest another one. Stay tuned for another episode. They come every Friday at 4 p.m. I love doing this for you guys. Thanks for supporting my channel. Thanks for giving me your time. I really appreciate it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.